Alright, so we're back to this. Now let's rescan what InuYasha said here to see where we left off. Let's see. Okay, that didn't turn out right, so let's go through this again. Right, InuYasha is saying if you want to go home, shouldn't we find a way to do that? Hey Maria, what's up? So, unfortunately we didn't get very far because having to try and translate, or having to try and run the text through translator takes a bit. I had a different video option for this stream. What do you mean? Alright. And then here, according to Deep L, Kururugi's going, huh? Find. Whereas, according to Google Translate, Kururugi is, saying, eh? Look for it. In the, let's see. Very nice, your avatar mouth moves with you. Hey, no worries. Yeah, I had someone help set it up, but thanks for joining, Star. In the English version of the game, Kururugi's response is find a way. The only option available is 1440p. What? I mean, yeah, that's my stream output, but huh. That's really weird. I have no idea how to give lower options. Huh. Sorry about that, Maria. But hey, no worries, Star. So, honestly, the English and... Hey, Aldenix. The English and Japanese versions are pretty similar here. Again, the two translations I'm getting are Kururugi asking find or look for it, whereas the English version, Kururugi said, questioned find a way. All three of them are repeating back what InuYasha said, which is like, if you want to get home, you should find a way to do that. Honestly, any of those options works fine. Okay, that one didn't turn out well. Which means then... Oh, come on. So the translation I'm getting from Kagome here is InuYasha. Perhaps that's what you wanted to say. But the English version, she says, is that what you were trying to say, InuYasha? But of course, InuYasha being InuYasha, he's not good at like being gentle with shit. He's very abrasive. So he will have a very rude way of saying or asking stuff. here. Okay, that's one option. And the other is... Okay, they both came out the same way. Here, InuYasha's response is, what else is there? But in the English he does tend to be that way at first. But in the English version, if I'm trying to remember right, he questions, don't you want to go back? So, I actually do think the translation from the Japanese version here is better than what the English version went with. Okay, that one came out a little weird. So this one... Kururugi is saying, that's right. If you're depressed, you won't get started. In the English version, if I'm remembering correctly, Kururugi responds with, I can't do anything if I'm upset. Which, in the English version, InuYasha responds with, you can be upset anytime you want. And then, if I'm remembering right, Kagome gets angry at him for wording it the way he did. But, let's see. Here... nope. That one didn't come out right. It's always nice having different translators for options. Okay, both of these came out a little weird. From Deep L, InuYasha says, oh, depression. I'm ready when you are. Which makes it sounds like InuYasha wants to fight depression, which... Cool, go for it. According to Google Translate, he says, being depressed is you can do it anytime. Which, I am actually gonna lean on, I am gonna go with what the English version went with, which is you can be upset anytime you want. Which, of course, given InuYasha, his meaning behind it is you can be upset whenever you want, anyways. Video options, it's generally best to go with 720. Most people can use it. 1440 is hard for a lot of people. Again, I don't know how to mess with that setting. I don't even know why the only option it's giving is 1440. Last I shall say, I don't want to push. Okay. Oh, okay. Again, I don't know how to mess with the video quality settings on my end, so... Hey, Kinmoku! Welcome! You made it early this time. We barely started. Yeah, Maria, I don't know how I can help you. I don't know how to give other video quality settings. I just have it set to put out what I stream, what I record from or what my monitors are, so... I can try and mess with it after stream, but right now I can't do anything about it, so I do apologize. Anyway. Let's see. Kururugi What are you saying here? Thought I managed to catch it earlier this time. Let's see. That one came out pretty alright. Let's see what the other one says. Yeah, okay. Basically the same thing. Deep L translates this as, I understand, I'll do my best. And Google Translate says, okay, I'll try my best. Could go with either or. They both work fine. I don't remember what his response was in the English version. Again, it's been like... like 8 months since I last played through the English version, so I'm not gonna remember a whole lot, even though I do remember a shit ton from this game. Right, okay. Here's the one of InuYasha being rude again. In the English version, he says, as long as you get it. So, let's see what the translation is. Yeah, okay. Deep L came out a little weird. It just turned out it's okay with me. But I do like what Google Translate came out with, which is, as long as you understand it, that's fine. Which I do like a bit better than the English version, which is, as long as you get it. Which, again, he's coming off a lot more rude in the English version than he does in the Japanese version, which is interesting. And then this is Kagome berating him, of course, because she's like, he is coming off as a bit rude. The English version, I think she outright tells him to stop it because she thinks he's being too rude. But here, like, she is being a bit gentler, saying, oh, come on, InuYasha. Like, we get it, just take it easy on them. Just take it easy on them. See here. Let's see. What do you got, Kaede? Pretty much the same thing. According to the Deep L translator, Kaede is saying, if that's what you mean. Whereas Google Translate says, if that's the case. Tone as well. The power of language, man. Amazing how a few words can make something different than intended from the original message. Yeah, like, if you were here yesterday, Star, like, or not yesterday, for the last stream, Star, there was one scene where it was pretty blatantly obvious that the English version completely changed the context with what they decided to say, as opposed to what the translator came out with. It was interesting. Like, it wasn't too bad, but you could absolutely tell they changed the context. There were some crazy mistranslations last time. And then, of course, there was the two sections that the English version, I pointed out, completely threw out the window. Let's see. That one came out a bit weird. I laughed so hard at that one, I had to wait. Which one? Which one, Kinmoku? Because if it was the thing regarding the bone eaters, well, with the incredibly weird translation I got, or if it was the thing about InuYasha being Kagome's boyfriend. Anyway, Kaede continues with, maybe you should stay here with InuYasha and the others for a while. The well one. I did upload that onto Blue Sky. I tried to put it on Twitter as well, but Twitter said that the frame rate was too high, so I couldn't do anything about it. Yeah, translation sometimes can be absolutely wild. Star, if you want to see what it is, I can send it to you over DMs and you can have a look. It's like a 41-second clip. Please, thank you. Okay, 1 second. Give me 1 second. So I think you're gonna love this one. Where's the option? Here we go. There we go. Yeah, no. I think you're gonna get a kick out of what the translator gave me. So... in the English version, Kaede says, like, you should... Like, if... Well, with that out of the way, maybe you should... maybe you should stick around with InuYasha and the others for a while. Which, yeah, pretty much the same thing. But, of course, InuYasha kind of goes, hold up, what? Let's see. The timing of the music with that translate. I thought you'd get a kick out of it, Star. Let's see. Okay, so both translations from this are pretty weird. For Deep L, it translated InuYasha's dialogue as, what did you say? Hey, I'm not that far. Whereas Google Translate came up with, what? Hey, I'm not that far, which pretty much the same thing. The English version has him say, what? Now hold on, that's going a little too far. Which definitely works a lot better than what either of the translations did. So either the translations are a bit wrong, which, hey, they're translators. Of course, there's going to be a chance of them being wrong. Like, again, I don't know Japanese. I can't speak it. I can't read it. So using machine translators are like the only way I can try and mess with this. Okay, there's that one, and this. Okay. According to Deep L, Kururugi responds with, well, I'm not sure I'm ready for that. Whereas Google Translate says, I don't think I can go that far either. The English version, if I remember right, is Kururugi responds with, I don't want to get in anyone's way. Because that's a running thing with Kururugi. Like, they very much have some self-esteem issues. Like, for the majority of this game, they're going to be under the impression that they're just getting in the way, holding everyone back. It isn't until like very late in the game that they get told, no, you're fine.
InuYasha.
Let's see. Kururugi's an example of don't want to rock the boat type. More or less, like, Kururugi is the type of, like, I can't do anything special while everyone else can. So, I don't want to make things more... I don't want to be more... I don't want to cause more trouble for the others if I can avoid it. Well, this applies to Kagome as well. Kururugi just doesn't want others to have to worry themselves over them or whatever. If need be, they're pretty much like, things would probably be smoother if I wasn't here, which then you just get the original story, which I have very big problems with. Anyway, here, Kaede is responding with... according to D-Bell translates it as, wait a minute, InuYasha, whereas Google Translate says, well, wait, InuYasha. The English version does also go with, wait a minute, InuYasha. Let's see. He's afraid of being a burden. Kururugi has such an interesting personality for a protagonist player, honestly. I haven't seen many as distinct since a lot tend to be blank slates. Protagonist character. Rather normal way of seeing oneself, unfortunately. See, that's an interesting thing to say, Kinmokusei, because some people that I've like tried talking about this game and Kururugi with, who are part of the InuYasha community, have pretty much said that no, Kururugi is just a player insert. They have no personality. And like they do so much to try and dismiss Cursed Mask as being a thing. And surprisingly, granted, his personality type, there are a few other characters that I could compare him to. Just because, like, honestly, Kururugi is pretty standard. But, and I need someone from the Fate fan base to clarify, what game are they playing? They haven't even played the game. I've been trying to get them to watch videos on YouTube of gameplay to experience the story, and they just refused because they thought I was being too pushy, which fair. But again, one character that I do think Kururugi shares quite a lot in common, but I would need someone familiar with the Fate series to verify this, is Shiro Emiya. I do think Kururugi, both Michiru and Kagome, would like have quite a bit in common as like with personality and such with Shiro Emiya from the Fate series. Let them go. Like, I don't worry about that. I dropped them over a year ago. I haven't spoken to them in over a year, like a year and a half. I don't care anymore. Anyway, let's keep going. So, Kaede is saying, now wait just a minute, InuYasha. Never played or watched Fate. Yeah, no worries. Like, I know Star has, and I brought this up to her, but she hasn't responded, so I'll let her do that on her time.
今回も何かただごとならん事情がありそうだ。
All right. Now this is a pretty good conversation from Kaede. According to Google Translate, Kaede is saying it was the same with Kagome, but this time too, there seems to be something unusual going on. In the English version, Kaede says, much like with Kagome, this is no trivial matter either. Like, because Kaede absolutely gets the feeling that, like, something very strange is going on. So we have to address this, which makes sense because now this is the second person from a different time period who has come to the feudal era. But they can't, but unlike Kagome, they can't use the Bone Eaters well. Nobody knows why, although I have my theory, which I explained in the last stream, which is that Kururugi was pulled back further than where the Bone Eaters well connects. And so the reason the Bone Eaters well won't let Kururugi use it to go back to the present is because there's already a version of Kururugi in the present at that time, running around for the so and so many months until the end of the game. Let's see, and InuYasha being a grouch about this because like he doesn't want to have to deal with someone else that he has to look after now. Asking, so what do you mean? I don't remember what his response is in the English version. InuYasha workload increased by 1. And then it increases by 1 once again in Divine Jewel. But I will get to that in 2027 and do a thing on that. Because I think I may as well. It is not a good game by any stretch, but it is an interesting game that I would like to kind of get out there a bit more, because it does have some things that I find interesting, even if it screws other things up pretty royally.
何かあった時にお前たちと一緒にいる方が何かと便利であろう。
Let's see. Google Translate. Kaede says, well, if something were to happen, it would be more convenient for me to be with you guys. Wording is a little weird, but in the English version, she says more or less the same thing of, if something were to happen, it would be better if all of you worked together. Which, yeah, like, because otherwise nobody's going to be here to help Kururugi. So, and Kaede, being the kind old woman that she is pretty much going, like, look, this kid is very clearly in some trouble. And you're the only ones we know of who could help. So it would just be better if you helped them. And here, the translations are the same. InuYasha is saying, shut up. In the English version, he groans, what a pain. Okay. That's an interesting translation. It's not a wild one like what happened with the Bonin as well. But this absolutely does fit with InuYasha. Uh-oh. Okay, so I'm gonna go with the Google Translate one because it's softer. InuYasha's response is, do as you please. The English version, he says, fine, do what you want. The Deep L translator translates this line as, fuck it, suit yourself. And I do think that is in line with InuYasha. That is absolutely an InuYasha take. But of course, the English version can't really use swears. Yep. I love translations for InuYasha swears like a sailor. I've seen some super funny translations and they always have me cackling. Like, it's really interesting because apparently that is the case with a fair bit of anime and manga and stuff, where the characters are a lot more vulgar than the actual English translations or localizations make them. Like, for example, I was told this years ago, so I don't know if it still holds up, but apparently Goku from Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, like, if you actually translated what he said instead of went with whatever Funimation or whatever other English translations went with, he swears like a motherfucking sailor. Like, Goku will swear like nobody's business, apparently. And I find that hilarious. Oh yeah, no surprise. So here, Kagome, according to the Deep L translator, says, good for you, Michiru. According to Google Translate, she says, I'm glad for you, Michiru-kun. And in the English version, she says, things are finally looking up, huh? Honestly, I could take any of those. Because all of them are like, hey, like, finally there's something going your way. Okay, that one came in a little weird. And here, Deep L translator went a little weird and translated Kururugi's dialogue as, I'm sorry, thank you, thank you. Google Translate says, can I join you? Thank you. The English version, if I'm remembering right, Kururugi says, you mean I can stay? Thank you so much. All right. Here, let's see. Kagome is saying, once that's decided, let's go and listen in on what people in the village have to say. In the English version, she responds with, it's decided. Now, let's go listen in on the village gossip. And then continuing. In the English version, she continues with, I believe, there might be someone who we might find someone who knows something. And here Google Translate says maybe I'll hear something that will give me a clue. So misworded. I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be maybe we'll hear something that will give us a clue or give you a clue. Here in the English version, I'm pretty sure Kururugi just responds with right. DeepL Translator says, yeah, I get it. Google Translate says, yeah, I understand. Really, you could go either way with that. Now we can finally run around a little bit more. Let's see if I can find the stats. No, that's items. That's... Here we go. Honestly, I do kind of like the font styling here. It does look a bit more unique than the English version, which is just kind of the generic typeset. But hey, we can actually compare Kururugi and InuYasha's level 1 stats with the others. Oh, and then there's the skills, which nobody has any yet. Oh, hold on. Oh no, that... Yeah, nothing learned yet. Okay. Very cute character screen, though. Yeah, they did retain it for the English version. The little portraits behind the stats, too. Interestingly enough, I guess, the portraits on the stat screens are the same ones on the cover of the game. So they pretty much just took these portraits from the stat screens and just put them on the game's cover. Anytime I see that sprite of InuYasha, I just think of that. Let's take Ibu. Saves budget. Yeah, plus they're they're posed in a way that they could be positioned fairly well. Let's take Ibu. InuYasha wouldn't even know what that is. So now pretty much the goal is to talk to everybody, because there are some villagers that have specific dialogue to trigger flags to continue on. He can find out real quick. True, Kagome has a first aid kit. I wouldn't be surprised if she has some ibuprofen. But be his new best friend after every sit. Unfortunately, I don't remember exactly which villagers I need to talk to, so it is best to talk to all of them. There is one villager in question that I absolutely need to translate to see what he says in the Japanese version. So I'm pretty much going to skip through all of these just to get through them. If anyone wants to screenshot them and translate what they say for whatever reason, you can do it in the VOD. Most of the villagers just kind of say generic shit based on like what's going on in the village. This one's talking about, like, if you're on the world map, just press the triangle button and to bring up the save menu. Let's see. Alright. What do you say? What do you say? Alright. Because in the English version, when you talk to this guy, trying to get clues, his response is, "What? You want to know where you came from?" Let's see. Secret Curse Mask is up there with Yu-Gi-Oh! Rush of Destruction for better written anime games in the 2000s. The difference, though, is that Rush of Destruction is absolute garbage. The Sacred Cards is better, because here's the thing. Sacred Cards is another one of those games of, here's a player insert character that essentially gets involved with the core story and causes changes as a result. And it's pretty good. The Sacred Cards does a pretty good job of doing here's essentially a fanfic with a self-insert getting involved in the core plot. Rush of Destruction is supposed to be a follow-up to that, but goddamn, the gameplay is utter garbage, because apparently Konami got a lot of responses for the Sacred Cards of, this game, this is too easy. So for Rush of Destruction, they were just like, okay, let's crank up the difficulty. Joey got shafted. I will not accept such blasphemy. Oh, absolutely. Granted, it is an interesting turn of events that Joey is the one that ends up in a coma instead of Mai. But it's Joey freaking Wheeler who tanked, what was it? 4 attacks from the Winged Dragon of Ra and survived. 3 of them were back-to-back. Damn, Joey's a badass. And if you want another character that I would say is similar to Kururugi, it's Joey Wheeler. Someone who starts at nothing. Joey is a terrible player at Duel Monsters, but he becomes one of the top players. That he is, according to Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, Maximilian Pegasus ranks Joey Wheeler as his top 3rd duelist in the world, right after Seto Kaiba and Yugi. That is saying something. Right. So, in the English version, this character, Pegasus, has nothing but respect for Joey. Oh, 100%. It's just a shame that in the manga, Pegasus is dead. Hearing that alone in Duelist Kingdom. Absolutely. The way Joey just absolutely played Bandit Keith was so good. So, in the English version, this character, when you talk to him to try and progress the story, he says, "What? You want to know where you came from? Of course I know. You came from your mother's womb. Now get out of here." The translation for this says, "Hey, where did you come from? Oh, I know." All humans come out of their mother's womb. And finishes with... Even though I look like this, I'm busy. Just hurry up and get out of here. I just kind of like this guy's response because he's being very matter of fact. Fine, I'll give you a factual answer just so that you can piss off and leave me alone. if you ask that guy what's up, he'd say the sky. Yeah, like he'd give the very literal responses just because he doesn't want to have to deal with your stupid ass. He's just like, look, I'm busy. I don't want to deal with you. Here's a literal answer. Get out. There we go. Alright. Once you've talked to the characters you need to, again, I don't remember which villagers are the ones that you're actually supposed to talk to, so I just talk to all of them just to make sure I don't miss anyone. You get this little scene of InuYasha basically saying, like, if you just keep talking to people at random, we're not going to get anywhere. According to the translations, he says, hey, if we keep talking like this, we're not gonna get anywhere. Which, funny enough, both translators come out with, which, yeah. And then Kagome, actually being the helpful one, responds with, that's right, we, if only we had some kind of clue. Kururugi's response. According to Google Translate, it says, well, even if you say it's a clue, okay, no, I'm gonna do something stupid. Where was that video? Nope, not that. Come on now. Here we are. Let's see if I can pull up what was said in the English version. Let's see. Right, here we go. So in the English version, Kagome was like, but it's unfortunate we don't have any clues. So the translation of Kururugi's line here is, even if you say it's a clue, that one's gonna be a little hard for me to try and reword, because in the English version, Kururugi's response is, I don't know. So I think what Kururugi should have been saying is, unfortunately, I don't have anything. And here, Kagome responds with, well, I hope you saw something strange. Which I do think the English version did do better with. It would help if you had seen anything out of the ordinary. Because, like, that is definitely a lot more helpful. Kagome is like, it would help if you saw something strange, but here, like, it's just, I think the translator just worded it weirdly. And here, in the English version, Shippo's like, you know what, there's something I find strange. Why is it that you couldn't use the Bone Eater's Well, but Kagome could? So let's see what the translation here is now. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, so the English version of this is, hey, something's bothering me. Whereas the translator says, hey, there's something that's been bothering me. Pretty much the same thing. And then from here, in the English version, Shippo questions, why couldn't you use the Bone Eater's Well, but Kagome could? Unfortunately, both translators came out a little weird. Deep L has Shippo say, why the Bone Eater's Well? Can't you use it? Kagome seems to be able to get through. Whereas Google Translate says, why the Bone Eater's Well? Can't you use it? Looks like Kagome can get through. So, definitely weirdly worded results. I would definitely go with the English one on this occasion. Like, why couldn't you use the Bone Eater's Well, but Kagome could? And then Kururugi just kind of going, like, letting out a hum of thought.
Ah, so ka. それは僕が骨食いの井戸から来たわけじゃないから。
And then Kururugi's like, oh, like, maybe this is why. Which, according to translator, is, oh, I see. That's because I didn't come from the well of bone eaters. Okay. Yeah, no. Like, pretty much supposed to be, oh, I think I know. It might be because I didn't arrive here through the Bone Eater's Well. So again, I still stand by my theory that, in part, yes, because Kururugi didn't come here through the Bone Eater's Well, that he can't go back through it, but also my theory that he was pulled back further than where the Bone Eater's Well connects. Considering at the end of the game, he sent back to Kururugi sent back to the exact point in which they were summoned from, with no time difference, despite spending like 2 or 3 months in the feudal era. So the theory is, while Kururugi was in the feudal era, the point in the present that the Bone Eater's Well connects to, there's a version of Kururugi still running around. So the Bone Eater's Well is like, nope, don't want a chance of paradox, so I am not sending you back there right now. And here in the English version, Kagome says, that would mean that, with a pause. And I'm pretty sure the translation here is going to more or less be the same. Like, that means pausing like she's coming to a realization. And then follows up with, there must be something like the Bone Eater's Well near where you woke up. And the translator says, isn't there something like the Bone Eater's Well near where you first woke up? Gotta leave supper on the stove. Depending on time, I might be able to jump back on, hopefully. No worries. Take care. Take care, Star. If you come back, I'll welcome you back. If you can't, then, hey, it's whatever. Yeah, I did that one. Now, InuYasha's response. What? Well, why don't you just go back to the first place? Which I definitely do think the wording came out wrong. And should be more along the lines of, is that so? Well, why don't we go back there then and see what we can find? The English version, he responded with, all we have to do is go back to the place where you first woke up. But I think now we're going to take a quick little break. Alright, and we're back. And here Kururugi responding with more or less, that's right, although, yeah, according to Google Translate, it's, I agree, but the English version just had him say, yeah. That, for those who are new here, that is an issue with the English version of this game. For most of the time, like, characters will respond with yes, and rarely ever any variation of it. Only on 2 occasions do they say yeah, but they don't say, like, sure or whatever else when it comes to trying to translate something like this or height or whatever. They end up being really strict. And there's another one they do that they translate to house, and in some cases it just comes off as really weird. But unfortunately, Kururugi has some bad news. But where is my first location? I don't remember at all, is what Google Translate comes out to. The English version, Kururugi responds with, but I can't remember where that was now. You can tell from the tone of or at least of Michiru's voice, I haven't heard Kagome's Japanese voice, that he feels that he's letting down InuYasha and Kagome by saying like, or by admitting that he doesn't remember because I was so scared at the time I was running like crazy. But in the English version, he has more of an embarrassed tone, like he's embarrassed to admit it. But here in Japanese, he's like, They're gonna hate me. But I have to say it. In the English version, Kururugi says, I was frantically trying to run away at the time. And in the English version, you can hear in Michiru's voice that it sounds like he's having a bit of a nervous laugh. Like, he shouldn't be laughing, but given the situation, he's like, yeah, kind of wasn't the best. With this, according to the Deep L translator, InuYasha responds with, "What the heck? That's sloppy." Google Translate actually turned out something a bit worse with, "What is it? How sloppy?" And in the English version, he responds with, oh shit, where'd it go? What a scaredy cat. I do think technically either could work, but I do think InuYasha calling them sloppy for not remembering makes a bit of sense. But given the situation, like, Kururugi was being chased by some villagers he didn't know, and he just kind of took off. So in a direction, he probably didn't even know where they were running. So of course they're not gonna remember, like, where they were supposed to, like, where they had been. And then here's the shop for various items. Let's see. Oh god, ooh. Oh, that did not translate well. Let's see. What are these items then? Let's see, the first one is bamboo shoots, then we have antidote, silver bell, morning dew on the sacred tree, and water bee. The bamboo shoot heals 50 HP, antidote cures poison, silver bell cures sleep, morning dew on the sacred tree. That's not a revive. And the water bee is heal 20 HP. What does this do again? Oh, wow! Okay. No, the morning dew on the sacred tree is the revive. Okay. But we only have 200 money. So can't exactly do anything about that. Oh, whoa, whoa. I did not want to buy. Also, that's interesting. The shopkeeper had a voice. I don't recall any of the shopkeepers having voices in the English version. Aldenix, if you're still here, could you verify that? And here's the old man that runs the mystery field. What exactly? The shopkeepers. Do they have voices when you talk to them in the English version of the game? I don't think so. Yeah, so they took out voices for an entire section of characters for the English version too. Let's see. Oh, I think this is also the first time we get a name for this character. Because, hold on, actually. Does he have a name? Yeah, no. So in the English version, this character doesn't have a name. But according to this translation, he does. Hi, my name is Hatamori. Our ancestors have been protecting this field for generations. Let's see. So, why protect the fields? Want to know? Well, let me tell you. That turned out weird. Let's see. This field is called the Mysterious Field, and there is a legend that the land is endowed with special powers. It seems that by combining seeds and... I don't know why it translated that to lighters. It's supposed to be fertilizers. Deep L didn't do any better. It somehow translated them to bottle gourd. Sometimes very mysterious crops grow. Oh, come on now. Come on. Okay, that turned out weird, but I'm pretty sure it's supposed to say, you think I'm suspicious, or you suspect something. In the English version, he says, you don't believe me. Which makes sense. Then, once you have the seeds and the... Okay. Interesting way of wording it. So the Deep L translation says, then when you get the seeds and fertilizer, come here with it. Google Translate says, then once you have the seeds and the sauce, bring them here. I don't know why, but saying bring the sauce. In the English version, he says, well then, when you find a seed and some fertilizer, bring it over here. The sauce! I'm actually going to blame Final Fantasy VII Remake for that, because there's an entire side quest plotline where they keep talking about the sauce. And they only ever refer to it as the sauce. So now anytime I see something like that, like I just think of that bit from Final Fantasy VII Remake. Boy. Let's see. And then he finishes with, I'll grow them for you, and you can see for yourself whether the legend of the farm is true or false. I think it's supposed to be the legend of the field. But this is where we do the get involved with the mystery field events. And yes, I am going to do all of them. There are 7 in total. Technically 9, but 2 of them are exclusive to Kagome, while 2 are exclusive to Michiru, with the other 5 being shared between them. And some are a huge pain in the ass to find. Some are a huge pain in the ass to get. And then it's incredibly tedious to get them because once you plant them, you need to be involved in 30 random encounters. Forced encounters from the story do not count in order to get the event. So, let's see, for 7, how many fights is that total then? Let's see. So, that is 210 encounters, and we unfortunately won't be able to get our first combination of seed and fertilizer until like halfway through the game. Come on. Let's talk to you to get that registered. And since we've talked to everyone we can up to now, here we go. Let's see. So InuYasha is asking, you really don't remember where you started? In the English version, he says, I can get there. You really can't remember where it was, being where Kururugi first woke up.
誰か一緒だったらその人に聞けばいいんだろうけど、その時は一人だったのよね。
And then Kagome saying, they worded it a bit weird as well. The translation turned out, if there was someone with me, I guess I should ask that person. I was alone then. Reworded, it should be, if there was someone with you, I guess you could ask that person, but you were alone then. I am going to go with the English version this time, which is, if someone had been with you at the time, we could ask them, but you were alone, weren't you? And then Kururugi basically saying, yeah, or that's correct. Let's see, I'm pretty sure both translators are gonna turn out yeah. Yep. But then, the English version instead has Kururugi say yes. So any kind of confirmation, the English version just decided to go with strictly yes. For the most part. So So there's not a lot of variety with some of the dialogue in the English version, unfortunately, and that's one of my gripes with it.
あ、そうだ。その場所のすぐ近くで変な村人たちに会ったよ。
But then Kururugi continues with, "Ah, that's right. Very close to that place, I met some strange villagers." Whereas in the English version, they say, "Oh yeah, I met a bunch of strange villagers near there."
"何か必死にみんなで探しているみたいだったけど."
And then ends with, "It seemed like everyone was desperately searching for something." Whereas in the English version, Kururugi says, "They were all desperately looking for something." Which, like, not too different. I do think for the Google Translate result, it should have been something like, it seemed like they were desperately searching for something.
ならそいつらに聞けばいいじゃねえか。
And then InuYasha, being, "Well, why don't you just ask them?" Whereas in the English version, he says, "Well, then we should ask them," which, same thing, really.
そうじゃなくても、その人たちが何かを見てる可能性もあるわね。
Let's see, and from Kagome, even if that's not the case, it's possible that they saw something. Whereas in the English version, she says, or at least they may have seen something that could give us a clue. Which, again, more or less similar.
僕がこの世界に来た時、あの人たちは近くにいたはずだし。
And then from Kururugi, "Yeah, they should have been nearby when I came to this world." Which, in the English version, "Yes, when I came into this world, they were nearby." I do think I prefer the translation as opposed to what's in the actual English version for this.
よし、じゃあその村人とやらを探そうぜ。
There's from InuYasha. Okay then, let's go find those villagers. What, English version, not too different, is, "Alright, let's go look for those villagers." And then talk to the kids, just so that then we've talked to everybody. Oh, come on, don't get stuck.
村の中は全部見たんじゃねえのか？
And then InuYasha starting to get a little annoyed because we haven't found anyone here. Hey, haven't you seen everything in the village yet? With the English version saying, "Hey, we've looked through the whole village now." Mostly the same thing. I could take either or.
そうだね。でもそれらしい人はいなかったよ。
Kururugi's response. That's right, but I haven't seen anyone who looks like that. In the English version, yes, we have, but I haven't seen anyone that looks like those villagers. I actually would take the English version over this time.
そうなると考えられるのは隣のアケビ村の人たちね。
Then from Kagome, the people who would probably say that are the people of the neighboring village of Akebi. Something about that wording doesn't come off right. The DeepL translator came out with what we think would be the case is they're from Akebi village next door, which I do think would be a bit closer. Whereas the English version, she says, all I can think of is maybe the next village, Akebi village. So I think a better translation in general then would be is in that case, I think they might be from the neighboring village, Akebi village.
近くに村があるんだ。じゃあそこの人なのかも。
And then Kururugi starts with, there's a village nearby, then maybe he's from there. Slight odd word choice. In the English version, Kururugi says, oh, there's a village nearby. It could be the people from there, which I do think I'd go with the English version here. In this case.
それで、そのアケビ村ってここから遠いの
And closes with, so, is Akebi village far from here? The English version going with something pretty much similar enough. Is Akebi village near here?
Hmm, そんなに遠くはないわ。ただ。
And then from Kagome, the DeepL translator says, no, it's not that far, just... Which is also what Google Translate comes up with. The English version, she says, yes, it's not that far, but... I do think if we went with the, with Kururugi's previous take of asking if Akebi village was far, I do think I would rather take Kagome's, no, it's not that far, just...
ただ
And then Kururugi responding back with, just? Because she paused for a reason, so he's going like, continue, please.
途中の道にはいろいろと出るのじゃ。
From Shippo. Shippo says, there are all kinds of things you'll encounter along the way. Whereas in the English version, he responds with, but there's all kinds of demons on the road going there. Which, it is interesting that the English version says, says there's a bunch of demons on the road when there's no mention of the word yokai in Shippo's text in Japanese. So, just a little interesting. Otherwise, they're more or less the same context-wise.
そうなの。
This should be Kagome saying that's right. Or at least she does in the English version. Okay, Google Translate says that as well.
ちょっとでも村から離れると妖怪に襲われることがあるのよ。
And Kagome is the one who mentions yokai, so let's see how that turns out. If you leave the village even for a little while, you might be attacked by a monster. In the English version, she says demons come after you even if... Well, that's that. Come on now. Demons come after you even if you're only a little ways from the village. I mean, that's their way to try and justify, like, the RPG mechanics for random encounters and such, because, as we know, in story, demons will attack villages regardless.
そっか。僕もこの世界に来た時に襲われたしな。
And then Kururugi's response of... I see, I was attacked when I came to this world too. Whereas in English, he says, when I came into this world, I was chased by one too. Which, contextually, more or less the same.
ええ、だから気をつけないと。
And Kagome saying, yeah, so you have to be careful. Whereas in English, she says, yes, so you need to be careful. Largely the same again, but again, the English version went with yes, whereas the translator went with yeah. So again, one of my bigger issues with the English localization is their almost inability to say anything other than yes for a form of confirmation.
まあ妖怪っつったって俺がついてりゃどうってことはねえけどな。
Then InuYasha being cocky as ever. Well, even if they're monsters, as long as I'm with you, it won't be a big deal. In the English version, he says, as long as I'm with you, you've got nothing to worry about from those demons. Which, again, contextually, not too different. Could take either or. Shippo, in the English version, responds with, that's right. But according to the translators, the DeepL translator, Shippo, says that's for sure, whereas Google Translate says that's certainly true. And then InuYasha with a laugh like, you know. And then Shippo with the insult. Shippo. That's another interesting, translation. Shippo responds with, you've got a lot of asshole power, you know that? Which, like, in a back and forth between Shippo and InuYasha, I could see that being a response. Google Translate went with, you have brute strength after all, which... I mean, that doesn't really come off as an insult. Which is why I do think I'd go with the English version here. Which is Shippo saying, yeah, you've got no brains, but plenty of brawn. And especially considering... Shippo did say baka in the Japanese version. Like, I don't know why the translator, like, why neither of the translators turned out, with, like, you're an idiot or whatever. Wow, such an insult. And then, now we've got another interesting response from InuYasha. In the English version, he just tells Shippo to shut up. The DeepL translator, he says, Shippo, you son of a bitch. Whereas Google Translate, he says, Shippo, you bastard. I could go with any of those, honestly. But of course, if you're going to tone it down for the English release, just telling him to shut up. Followed by... hitting him on the head. Like, sure. But otherwise, if you're going for a straight translation, I absolutely could hear InuYasha call Shippo either a bastard or a son of a bitch. And then for this one, in the English version, Shippo's response is, ouch, why'd you do that? Google Translate says, ouch, what are you doing? And the DeepL translator says, what the hell are you doing? Which, like, in either situation, come on, Shippo, you had to know that was coming. When you insult InuYasha, coming from you.
InuYasha, よしなさいよ.
And of course, Kagome being the mom, in the English version, she says, cut it out, InuYasha. The DeepL translator says, InuYasha, come on. And Google Translate is InuYasha, please. Really could go with any of them, but I do like her cut it out InuYasha because it's absolutely coming off, being read off with a bit of a tone of authority. Like, she almost like she's about to follow up with the threat of a sit command, considering we know she did it before the last time InuYasha hit Shippo.
そういえば、二人とも妖怪だったんだよね。
And then here, Kururugi notices the obvious. Kururugi did say yokai, so from the translations, DeepL translator says, has him say, speaking of which, they were both monsters. Google Translate is, now that I think about it, they were both monsters. Which, yeah, I do like the English version a bit better, which is, come to think of it, you two are demons. So, yeah, I would go with the English version there.
InuYasha としっぽちゃんのこと？
And then Kagome asking, you mean InuYasha and Shippo? In the English version, she asks, what? Are you talking about InuYasha and Shippo?
うん。なんか不思議だよ。妖怪なんて怖いだけだと思ってたのに。
That translation didn't come out well. So, Google Translate says, yeah, it's kind of strange. I always thought monsters were just scary things. In the English version, Kururugi responds with, it's very surprising. I thought all demons were scary.
今ではこうやって一緒にいるんだから。
Now we're together like this, while the English version says, and here we are all together. Honestly, could go with either or. They both seem fine enough.
InuYasha は本当の妖怪とはまた違うんだけど。
And then Kagome saying, InuYasha is not a real yokai, though. But in the English version, she says, InuYasha isn't really a demon.
おい、カゴメ、余計なこと言うんじゃねえよ。
Which I do find it a little interesting, then. That, like, in the English version, Kagome's kind of skirting around, like, technically he's a demon, but I don't know if I should really say it. But in the Japanese version, it almost seems like Kagome is insulting him by saying he's not a real yokai, considering that's been InuYasha's goal for at least a good bit of the start of the story. Because his whole thing was get this Shikon jewel to become a full demon. To become a full yokai. So Kagome here saying that InuYasha is not a real yokai, though, is interesting and sounds kind of insulting. But then we have InuYasha stepping in. And in the English version, he quickly says, "That's enough, Kagome." Whereas here, he's saying, "Hey, Kagome, don't say anything stupid." Oh, hold on. He's a half-demon, which lots of others give him shit for. Yeah, because... it gets brought up a lot in the original story. Demons hate half-demons because they're half-human, and humans hate half-demons because they're half-demon. It's like... they embody the two people that both sides hate.
Demo.
Kagome pretty much saying, but... Because she's like, don't you think Kururugi should know? But Kururugi is pretty much just like, nah, that's okay. I don't need to know. Google Translate from this is, it's fine, Kagome. Like, he's trying to stop her and be like, you don't need to tell me. Whereas in the English version, he says, it's okay, Kagome, I'm not too concerned with that kind of thing. Which I do find a little interesting that in the... oh, never mind. No, never mind. The English version just expanded a little bit more. Alright, makes sense. People are awful that way, demons too, it seems. I mean, if you want a clear example of that, look at Shiori. Because, like, that is her being treated, her and her mother being treated like crap by the human villagers. But then Shiori's grandfather, the bad demon, is merely using her for her power. He doesn't give a shit. And then there's also a bit with Jinenji too, who is a half-demon. And the other human villagers are like, hey, Jinenji's like causing all this trouble when he actually isn't, and it's actually another demon causing trouble. And it just so happens that with Jinenji nearby and being a half-demon, like, they just make him take the fall.
それより、もしよかったらその村まで案内してくれないかな。
So yeah, a little interesting that for the Japanese version, Kururugi just says, like, it's fine, and then he moves on to, like, what's actually important, which is getting to Akebi village. But in the English version, they expand a bit by saying, like, it's fine, I'm not too concerned about the whole thing regarding InuYasha. And Deep L's translation of this text is, well, if you don't mind, will you take me to that village? Google Translate is, rather than that, if you don't mind, could you please guide me to the village? In the English version, Kururugi asks, do you think you could take me to the next village? So... I could honestly go either way between what the English version has for Kururugi's response here of, like, it's fine, I'm not too concerned about that, do you think you could take me? And the Google Translate result of, it's fine, Kagome, rather than telling me about any of that, if you wouldn't mind, could you please take me to the next village? Also, it is nice that it is a little interesting that the translation of the Japanese version, Kururugi says, "If you don't mind, could you please guide me to the village, or will you take me to the village?" Whereas in the English version, Kururugi's just like, "Do you think you could take me?" Like, not even asking if you don't mind, or could you please?
そう。もちろんいいわよ。一緒にあけびの村まで行きましょう。
Okay, that one came out a little weird from Deep L. Google Translate is... Yes, of course, that's fine. Let's go together to Akebi Village. Whereas in the English version, she says, "Of course I can, let's all go to Akebi Village." The translated one, I'm pretty sure the yes with the pause to start is her responding to Kururugi's rather than that of like trying to pivot from the discussion of InuYasha being a demon to, hey, like, do you think you could take me to the village? And then Kagome's like, okay, sure, let's get going.
でもその前に旅の準備をしておいた方がいいと思うわ。
And then here, the default translation is, "But first, you should be prepared to travel. I think that it's a good idea." Google Translate is, "But before that, I think you should make some preparations for your journey." And the English version is, "But we should prepare for our trip before we go." Which, same thing, context-wise.
そうじゃな。途中の道のりは結構険しいしな。
One moment. Alright, and Shippo's response. In the English version is, "That's a good idea. The road leading there is pretty rugged." Whereas Google Translate says, "That's true. The road in between is quite steep." The Deep L translation is a little iffy, but it does have a part that I kind of prefer wording-wise that I'd probably apply to the Google Translate result, which would together become end up with, "That's true. The road in between is pretty nasty."
わかった。じゃあ買い物して出かけよう。
Then Kururugi responds with, "Okay, let's go shopping and head out." Whereas in the English version, they say, "Okay, let's go shopping first." And yes, you do need to speak to the shopkeeper before you're allowed to leave. Because you need to get this scene.
最低限の旅の道具はここで買うことができるわ。
Which Kagome says, "This is the general store. You can buy the basic travel supplies here." In the English version, She says, this is the general store. We can get almost everything we need here. Not too different. With InuYasha responding, according to Deep L, with, well, not much of anything. Like, that's actually what he says, according to Deep L. Google Translate, he responds with, well, it's nothing special, though. Whereas in the English version, he says, there isn't anything that we need. Kagome's response. Kagome's response is... You say things like that, but you're always making a fuss about not having this or that. And in the English version, she more or less says the same thing with, hey, you're the one that's always complaining about not having this or that. And then we can access the store, but with only 200 money, at best we could get 2 of the healing items, or 1 of the healing item and a silver bell. But I don't think I'm gonna... actually, no. I probably should, just because InuYasha and Kururugi are not at level 2. Because we don't have that starting tutorial area where we could get into fights. And not only that, but in that area, in the English version, there are 2 healing items to pick up. So the English version already starts you off with a little extra. Plus, with those fights, you also get a little extra money. So Japanese version starts you off at a disadvantage. So I am actually going to use this money. Let's get 2 of these. Then off to the world map. In which we can save. And of course, the way the saves work, for those who weren't here when I did the English version back in March. So the... Oh, come on. The blue icon here, if you're playing as Kagome, it'll be pink and the triangle will be upside down because that's how they decide to assign whether you're playing as the boy or the girl. And then the portrait on the right side, for the first little bit until your first day off, will feature either Michiru or Kagome, depending on who you're playing as. But this will change depending on who you spend time off with on the day off intervals. And that will also tell you whose route you're on. So if this portrait changes to InuYasha, you're heading down InuYasha's route. If it's Kagome, Kagome's route, and so on and so forth. When working towards Sesshomaru's ending, it's a little bit weird with how it works. Because the portrait will change to whoever you've been spending the mandatory days off with. Because in order to get Sesshomaru's ending, you need to say no whenever you're asked if you want to stay the night at an inn. So any ones that you have a choice for, you have to say no. Otherwise, you're forced to spend the night and spend a day off with someone. And then depending on certain other criteria, eventually, for the last stretch of the game, there will be a when you make a save, the icon will change to Sesshomaru to let you know that you're on Sesshomaru's route. I will get to that eventually. It will be the last run I do. Simply because then I don't have to deal with him. And I'm essentially going in the order of what I think is the best route to the worst route of the game. Starting with the romance route. So, my personal opinion, the Kagome romance route is the best route in the game. Just bar none. There's just so much going on between Kagome and Michiru that make them seem way too perfect for each other that, like, it's kind of a no-brainer. The second best route, personal opinion, is Kaname and Moroku. Third best is Michiru and Sango, simply because I do think it takes way too long for the Sango romance route to actually make sense as a no. Actually, it's because it takes way too long before Michiru comes to the realization that Sango's beautiful to a degree that I'm just like, it doesn't make sense for the romance route, because then by the time he realizes that Sango's beautiful, it feels way too rushed. Kaname and InuYasha then is, in my opinion, the worst romance route in the game. Only because of one specific thing that makes Kaname come off as being incredibly manipulative. And I don't like, that's the big reason I don't like that. If not for that scene, I would place Kaname and InuYasha's with InuYasha's romance route higher than the Michiru and Sango romance. But just double check the save. With that, we're going to go for another quick break. Alright, and we're back. And now we can finally get on the road and get into some fights. Huh. That's weird. I seem to recall in the English version there was a merchant here. Unless that's a bit further down and I just don't remember. But hey, let's try a fight in the Japanese version, huh? Huh! The portraits at the bottom are different from the English version, too. Interesting. Like, they actually look... like, they're actually posed like they are, on the turn wheel at the top. Which, I don't think I went into this in the English version, but, well... here we go. So the turn wheel up here is pretty much how you find out the turn order. Whoever's up here is the one who has the next turn. Whoever's over here just had their turn. But there are ways to affect how fast you travel along the wheel to have your next turn by increasing your action or activity. I honestly don't know what the Japanese version calls it, but the English version goes back and forth between action and activity. If you use a normal tech, it inflicts a weak status on the character, which means that they don't start... it takes them a bit longer before they start moving on the wheel to actually start having their next turn. And certain status conditions, like, I believe sleep, will essentially freeze their position on the turn wheel until the condition ends. But since all we can do right now is attack, because we don't have any techs,
Yosh. やるぞ。やったぞ。
へえ、やるじゃねえか。
And, yeah. Kururugi's method of attacking before getting any attacks is to just run up to the enemy and punch them. I mean, hey, what else can he do? He doesn't have any weapons or anything. Okay, so that's what the poison is in the Japanese version. Alright. Okay, and that's miss.
気分悪い。
はい。やるぞ。やったぞ。
Michiru just straight up punching opponents has the same energy as fighting type Pokemon being strong against dark types for whatever reason. There is a reason for it. Just one moment. And of course, after every battle encounter, whoever dealt the killing blow to end the fight will say something. What they say is dependent on how fast you end the fight and what percentage of HP the character is at. There's also special co-op techs or cooperative techniques that you can get later on. And if you end the fight with a cooperative technique, the two characters that pulled it off will have a bit of dialogue together, which is pretty neat. Let's see, Shippo here. Uh-oh. Translator's having an issue. One sec, let's try again. Okay, according to Deep L, Shippo says, "How's that? Have you seen what we can do?" Whereas in Google Translate, he says, "How about that? Have you experienced our power?" Shippo does say something along that line. So, can Mocha say about the fighting type Pokemon being strong against dark type? That is a Japanese culture thing, because in Japanese, dark type is called the evil type. And the reason why dark types are weak to fighting and bug is a Kamen Rider reference. That's it. That's the joke. Dark types being weak to fighting and bug is just straight up a Kamen Rider reference. And everyone got a level. With... Interesting. Never knew that. Yeah. And here, InuYasha learned a technique. Oh, there we go. According to the Deep L translator, InuYasha learned the Scattering Soul Iron Claws, which I do think is the actual translation of the technique. Learn the Sankon Iron Claw. Okay. Oh no, get not that. Come on. Let's just double check this. Sankon Tesso, yeah. Iron River Soul Sealer, Soul Scattering Iron Claws. Close enough. But yeah. So now InuYasha has his first normal tech. So now he can hit a bit harder. But since it's a normal tech, if he uses it, his next turn will start up a bit later. And the English version of the game is a little funny with it, because it cuts off before InuYasha finishes saying Iron Reverse Soul Stealer. So it sounds like he's saying Iron Reverse Soul Stealer. And I just find that a little funny.
負けるか。やったぞ。
よし。お願い、当たって。それ、やった。
Also in Pokemon, another way to look at the Dark or Evil type being weak to fighting types is another Japanese culture reference of evil will always fall to fighting spirit. And that's really it. Let's see what the description for this is. See. Okay, that one didn't translate well. So, Google Translate, what do you say? Attack one enemy with sharp claws. Yeah, it pretty much just says what it does. And InuYasha's victory quote, or one of them anyway. According to the Deep L translator, is, they don't have much to say. According to Google Translate, they're nothing compared to their mouths. I don't remember what his insults are in the English version anymore. I probably should have seen what that was that dropped, but whatever. I'm pretty sure that's... Yeah. Oh, it's... Okay, it's the weaker healing item. Well, we got surprise attacked. And since InuYasha's going first, I can actually show off the weak status. And then the little symbol at the bottom left of InuYasha's icon is that he's weakened, so he won't be moving on the turn dial until that fades out. is this different dialogue for you, Shippo? Yeah, okay, this is definitely one that's also in the English version. He laughs triumphantly and says, "It's all thanks to me." Yep. That's exactly what it was. And that's another 20 HP healing item that we don't need to worry about for a while. So the difference between fights from the purple clouds and if you get a fight anywhere else is the demons that spawn from the purple clouds are stronger than what you'd run into otherwise. And that's why the clouds disappear when you beat the fights from them. Because it's like, okay, you won the stronger fight. We're not gonna let you farm it.
やったぞ。
へえ、やるじゃねえか。くすぐってんだよ。
よし。任せて。それ、やった。うん。
しゃあ。くわえ。三言テスト。もらった。
ほらか。おりゃ。
くすぐってんだよ。
はい。負けるか。やったぞ。よし、この調子で行くぞ。
And here's a victory quote from Kururugi, Michiru specifically, so... Let's see... Saying, alright, let's keep it up. I don't remember what the English equivalent one was. I know two of his are... Now that's the way it's done. And... Alright, we did it! Oh, here we go. Kagome and Shippo learned something. First up is Kagome's. Which should be the aimed shot, I think. Shaku Soga. What the Shaku Soga. Huh. No idea what that means, but I'm pretty sure that's the aimed shot. And Shippo... Depth charge. Depth charge? What? Something about those doesn't seem right, so I'll run the other translator when I get into a fight with them. Oh, hold up, and I think we found something good. Oh, medicinal herbs. Alright. Okay, yeah. Let's see what those are. Let's see. Soga is... Oh, no, that's, Okay, that's first aid. Right, because she's the combat healer. Shippo's was... fire bombs, I think. Yeah, fire bombs. Okay. I mean, hey, at least we have a way to heal. And then Shippo can also do some extra damage. This
いい
is...
もの見つけた。
That's a bit easier on the ears. In the English version, whenever Michiru found an item on the floor, he'd say, "Hey, look what I found." I'm pretty sure that is a direct translation of what he says here, but the way he says it is a little bit better here in Japanese, I think. Oh, wow, morning dew from the sacred tree, so we got a revival item. Nice.
Oh, いいもの見つけた。
Pearl of Protection. That's not an equip, I don't think. Yeah, no, that, I think it says it raises defense for 3 turns. I think. There's a reason for the 3. Oh, wow. When equipped, defense power increases by 3. Oh, wow, okay. Huh. I didn't think that was an equipable. Actually. Okay, anyone can wear it. Okay, 38, 26, 23, and 31. Yeah, okay, I'll give it to Michiru because he has less. Hold up. Defensive 31. Defensive 38, okay. But wow, Kagome has more defense than Kururugi, alright. Then again, the way the stats are distributed, like, even Kaname has different stats than Michiru. They do not play the same at all.
返り討ちにしてやる。
They may largely be the same character, follow the same story, with some differences, but, stat-wise and technique-wise, they are not the same. I don't recall those birds having red eyes in the English version.
もらった。くすぐってんだよ。
よし、
Alright, good damage from Shippo.
お願い当たって。それ、やった。
はい。やるぞ。やったぞ。
Nice! Alright, what's this quote then?
よし、この調子でいくぞ。
Let's keep it up. Okay, so it's that one again. There's the merchant.
へい、い らっしゃい。
どれにしようかな。
So the heal, antidote, silver bell, the revival, the weaker healing item, and this one is recovers. Oh, okay. Recovers dark or blind. Okay.
またのお越しを。
Yeah, that's a little surprising that in the Japanese version, every shopkeeper is voiced. And the English version just decided, nah, less voices to work with.
くすぐってんだよ。おし。往生しやがれ。三根鉄装。もらった。
Look at all that energy InuYasha has. And nothing to spend it on.
やるぞ。やったぞ。
へえ、やるじゃねえか。
行くぞ。爆雷術。
Now, we're doing pretty good on time. If things go well, we might be able to get Michiru to learn his Shikigami. Or we'll find out what it's actually called in the Japanese version. Although, I feel like the English version wouldn't change it to be Shikigami.
いいもの見つけた。
So it should be Shikigami still. If it isn't, then actually something else, then it'll be a surprise to find out what they actually say it is. A ring. Oh, hang on. If this is a power ring, and this is the offense equipment. Yeah, Ring of Power. Here we go. Well, let's give the attack boost to the only one that can actually really do any damage. No, not that screen. This one. Damage go up. Yeah, and we've arrived at Akebi Village. That wasn't bad. Let's see. There are technically... well, 3, but technically 4 specific people that we need to talk to. Let's see. The charcoal here at Akebi Village is so famous that people come from far away to buy it. The charcoal we make is made from trees that we carefully cultivate, so it's no wonder it's so popular, you know? I'm really curious to hear what Kakuju sounds like. Huh. No, I don't think you're the one I was supposed to talk to. Because you don't have a voice. But... you talked about the Jizo statues. You can make a living from charcoal. These Jesus statues. Thanks for watching over the. Okay, Google Translate goofed on that. The Deep L translator says, "The Jizo are the reason I am able to make a living from charcoal. It is thanks to you that you watch over our village." Give me a bit. I'm pretty sure I talked to that person. When I played the English version. So let's see if I can find that again. Okay. Yeah, English version. Because the Jizo protect our village, we have been able to make a living from making charcoal. Here we go. This is who I need to talk to. The guy right next to him.
なあおい、旅の人、グルデラの話を聞いたかい?
Alright, here we go. Here we go. Hey, traveler. Have you heard the story of the old temple? Interesting. He specifically said bakemono. Not yokai. Apparently, there's a monster living in an old temple nearby. In the English version, he says, "Hey, traveler, have you heard about the old temple? It seems there's a bunch of demons in there."
Kururugi?
Should be the old temple. In an old temple. Yeah, in the old temple. And then Kururugi in the English version says, "That's a little scary." For some reason, the Deep Elf translator decided to translate that as, "You look a little tough," which I don't think is correct. Google Translator, that sounds a bit scary. Not too different. See. InuYasha says... Huh. Even if you say it's a monster, it's probably just a weak monster anyway. It's nothing to be scared of. In English, his response is demons. Huh. Yeah, right. Whatever. There's nothing to be scared of. Interesting that the Japanese version mentions the weak demon, because InuYasha in the English version definitely makes that remark a bit later. Shippo, according to the Deep L translator, says, "I really hope you're right." Google Translate, "I hope that's true." In the English version, "I sure hope so." More or less the same thing. Next up is one of my favorites, so I'm curious what the translation is. Because, let's just say the English version is a little weird if you're playing as Michiru.
お前さんたちも村から出られなくなってる口かい？
Let's see. Are you guys also stuck in the village? Which, if I can... Yeah, here we go. That's... in the English version, he says, you guys can't get out of the village either. Only for Kagome to have a weird response in the English version of, huh? Why? So let's see what she says here. Let's see, sticking with what he said, asking if we're also stuck.
どうして？
Okay. Wow, they actually translated that correctly because Kagome pretty much asks, why? Okay. Still a little interesting.
いやー、変わった服を着てるからこの村の人じゃないだろうってね。
I don't know, I just think that's... Like, just to me, that feels like a weird response to the question of, are you guys stuck here too? Let's see. In the English version, he responds, your clothes are different, so I figured you weren't from here. Translation is... Well, you're wearing strange clothes, so I don't think you're from this village. Close enough. She's probably used to it or something. What, just suddenly being unable to leave the village?
それは当たってるけど、どうして村から出られないの？
The first part was the guy asking, are you... Oh, so you're stuck in this village too. So Kagome following up with, why? Just seems a little weird to me, I think. Kururugi responds with... That's true, but why can't you leave the village? Which, in the English version, says... Pretty much the same thing. You're right, but why can't people get out of the village? Oh, it should have been... Yeah, like, there definitely should have been more to it than just why. There definitely should have been more to Kagome's line there instead of just asking why in response. Like, should have been like, could you clarify or something?
そりゃ雲のせいさ。最近この辺りをでっかい雲の妖怪が荒らし回っててな。
And here we go. The big ass spider. Sometimes people shorten things, not always for a good reason, though. Well, it's because of the spider. There's been a big spider monster going around here recently. In the English version, because of the spider, lately there's been a big demon spider wandering around the place. And then he continues.
村の外に出られんのだよ。
He continues with, I'm scared, I can't go outside the village. But in the English version, he says no one can leave the village because everyone is scared. I do think I'd go with the English version for this one. Now, how does the Japanese version of Kururugi respond to the spider?
雲。僕、雲は苦手。
In the English version, Kururugi responds with, Spider? I hate spiders. Here, the translation is, a spider? I don't like spiders.
私も雲はちょっと。
So we're definitely getting a hint of that arachnophobia from Kururugi. Me too, dude. I mean, I think most spiders are harmless, but definitely when you see one all of a sudden, like along the wall or counter or whatever, it can be something like, oh shit, what are you doing here? And Kagome responds with, I don't like spiders either, which in the English version says, I don't really like them either. It's a little bit... I hate them, they're creepy. It's a little bit interesting with Kagome, though, because she knows Naraku has a relation to spiders. So if you read it in that context, it is a little bit different. Then also, Kagome did have to deal with a spider demon early on in the series, too. So...
そういう問題じゃないと思うんじゃが。
But then here's Shippo's follow-up, which in the English version says, I don't think that's the problem. The translator also says, I don't think that's the problem, because he already gets the feeling that there's something else going on with this guy.
雲といってもただの雲じゃないぞ。
Let's see, in the English version, he starts with, and it's not just any spider. And the translation on Google Translate says, even though it's a spider, it's not just any spider.
とてつもなくでかい上に真っ白い糸で人を絡めとるとか。
English version follows with, it's an enormous spider with a white web that captures people. Translation says, not only is it incredibly large, but it also entangles people with pure white threads. I don't know, I kind of like how he describes it based off the translations rather than the English version.
白い糸で絡めとる。やだな。
Oh, you can hear the fear in Kururugi's voice here. Oh, you can absolutely hear that fear. Whereas in the English version, when he responds, it sounds a little more out of disgust. But you can absolutely hear that he's afraid. Tangled up in a white in a white thread. I don't like it.
しかも足には黒い毛が生え。
And he continues. Let's see. Yeah, the English version, Kururugi's response was captures with a white web. Scary. I definitely do like what came off of the translation from the Japanese version. A bit better. And then this guy follows up with, on top of that, he has black hair on his legs. Translation says, and he has black hair on his legs. Okay, same thing. Oh, that was fear. That was Kururugi's absolutely scared. Yeah, that's a cry out of, oh no, stop it. And in the English version, he says, please stop. I would probably go with the English version on this one. Like, begging, please stop, like, because Kururugi is absolutely terrified right now.
この男、なんだか面白がっとらんか?
And then Shippo jumps in. Shippo jumps in saying, I think he's exaggerating. The translation says, this guy, isn't he a little amused? I'd be telling them to stop. Oh, he's got one more. He's got one more in you.
目は10以上もあり。
Last one is, in the English version, he has more than 10 eyes. And the translation is, it has more than 10 eyes. And in the English version, Shippo responds with, he's definitely exaggerating. And I've heard, so I did watch Gaijin Goomba play through the English version a little bit, like a few years ago. He didn't get far because his copy was broken, because it lagged to hell and back whenever he got into a fight. But when he did reach this point, and when he was going through this, his reaction was, this guy's just describing a spider. But in the context of the setting of the story, they're talking about a spider demon. There has never been any showing of a spider demon with more than 2 eyes. Or even the black hairs on their legs. So that would be why Shippo is saying that this guy's exaggerating. But the translation, he's going, no matter how you look at it, he's having fun. So the English version says that the guy's exaggerating, but the context here from Shippo is that he's trying to make up a story.
親父、いい加減にしろよ。
And then InuYasha cuts in. in English, saying, threatening him with, "Hey, talk straight, old man." And the translation says, "Hey, old man, stop messing around."
すまん。素直に怖がってくれるものだから。
Okay, I think this is the one I've been wanting to check for, because the old man's next bit from the English version is, "Sorry, I get a kick out of the girls getting scared so easily when I tell the story." Even if you're playing as Michiru, he says, "I get a kick out of the girls getting scared so easily." But the Japanese translation, is interesting. Because the guy is saying, sorry, because it honestly scares me. At least according to Google Translate, Deepel says, "I'm sorry, it's something that honestly scares me."
つい調子に乗ってしもうた。
And then follows with, "I got carried away." Or, "I'm getting carried away," depending on which of the two translations you go with. And in the English version, it says, "I got carried away." So, I'm a little interested to know why the English version decided to include the "I get a kick out of girls getting scared whenever I tell the story." Because he didn't say anything like that, according to the translations I was pulling.
とにかく誰かがそいつをやっつけてくれんと恐ろしくて村の外に出られんよ。
Honestly, going by the translations, it sounded like he gets scared, so he tells the story more or less to amuse himself out of his own fear. Or at least that's what I'm seeing out of it, based on what the translations are turning up. And this last bit is, "Anyway, somebody needs to take him down. I'm too scared to go outside of the village." But in the English version, he says, "Anyway, until someone takes care of him, everybody's too scared to leave the village." So, a little interesting. But, with that, we're going to go for one more break. And we're back. Let's see. There's definitely something we need to pick up here, though. Let's see. Oh, come on now. This is a cherry blossom branch, which we do need for later. Let's see. Blossom branch. Okay. So I need to keep this one in the market. Because we're going to need that for the mystery field event. this is...
いいもの見つけた。
And this one is wild vegetables, so another healing item, I'm sure. Yeah. Okay.
Yokai? ああ、森の古寺の大雲のことか。
Let's see. Oh, come on. You say yokai. Ah, you mean the giant spider from the old temple in the forest. Come on. The English version, he says demon. Oh, the giant spider in the old temple in the forest. So, pretty much the same thing. Oh? Hold on, this might be interesting. He has been visiting the old temple since I was a child. I heard that he lived there. Huh. Whereas in the English version, he says, ever since I was a child, I heard that it lived in the old temple. Then... Come on. Recently, it suddenly appeared in the village and started attacking villagers in the English version, but recently he came to the village and it's been attacking the villagers. Alright. And ends with... Because of that, I've been unable to go out into the forest lately, and it's been a problem. Whereas in English... So, because of that, nobody's been able to get out to the forest. It's been terrible. Then from Kururugi... Well, recently means that until then... Have you ever scared anyone? What? That doesn't sound right. From Google Translate, D-Bell's not any better. It says, what do you mean by recently? Until then, did you ever scare people? I kind of want to go with the English version for this one. Recently, you say. Does that mean he didn't chase people before? Just change chase with attack. And... that would pretty much be... better.
おいお前、なんでそんなことを聞くんだ？まさかフルデラへ行く気じゃあるめえな。
And here. Hey, why are you asking me that? You don't intend to go to the old temple, do you? Whereas in the English version, he says, why would you ask that? Are you going to the old temple? I mean, same thing pretty much.
だったらどうだってんだ。
And then InuYasha in the English version. No, come on. Respond with, what if I do? The translation from Deep L is, what if it was? Doesn't really make as much sense. Google Translate is, so what do you mean? I think I'd rather the translation, if the translation was, so what if I am, or so what if we are? One of those two I think would have been better.
いや、すまん。どうってことはないんだが。
And then the other guy continues with, in English, nothing, I'm sorry. Whereas the translation is, according to Google Translate, is, no, sorry, it's nothing. Whereas Deep L says, no, I'm sorry. It doesn't really matter.
まあ、とにかく、今まではせいぜい寺に迷い込んだ家畜や動物を食うくらいだったんだ。
From here, Deep L translates as, well, at best, until now anyway, livestock and animals that wander into the temple, it was enough to eat. I do feel like the wording on that's a little weird. Google Translate is, well, anyway, up until now, the most they've done is eat livestock or animals that wandered into the temple. Not bad. English version is, until now, he was satisfied to eat stray farm animals and creatures in the wild. Not too bad. I do think I'd go with the Google Translate version, personally.
村まで出てきて暴れたことは一度だってなかったさ。
And he closes off with... from Deep L, that they came out to the village and went on a rampage. It never happened. Wording's a bit weird. Google Translate is, he has never come out to the village and caused a disturbance. Whereas in the English version, he never used to come to the village. So again, I would probably prefer the Google Translate. But now, we get to something good. First, talk to this guy. I guess he mentioned something interesting. If you want to go to the pond up ahead, you should talk to an old man named Kakuju-sama. Interesting that it would go with old man, because surprise, surprise, Kakuju's gender changes depending on what gender character you're playing as. If you're playing as Michiru, Kakuju is an old woman. If you're playing as Kagome, Kakuju is an old man. In the English version of the game, this text is, if you're going to the pond just ahead, you should talk to Kakuju. But also, the translation says that they're saying Kakuju-sama, but they don't translate the sama in the English version. And then he ends off with, I'm sure he'll be very grateful for the stories he tells. Which, also a little weird. English version is, I'm sure you'll hear helpful stories. So the English version at least tries to go with a gender ambiguity by never mentioning Kakuju's gender. While the Japanese version, supposedly based on these translations, constantly refers to Kakuju as a he, or an old man, even if you're playing as Michiru, in which case Kakuju should not be a man. Sama means lord or lady, or other such similar meanings. Essentially, the Sama suffix honorific is meant to be when talking about someone of high esteem or social position. Because Sama can also be used for master. In some instances, it entirely becomes a thing based around context. But now,
おおほう。式神使いとは珍しい。
hello? High trip of respect. I do think she said Shikigami. In the English version, if I can get ahead to it, Kakuju says, what rare use of Shikigami power? According to the translation, she says, I see. It's rare to see a Shikigami user.
Eh?
And of course, Kururugi's just confused.
お前さん、危機に陥った時に何かを呼び出したことはないかね。
Kakuju's theme! I love it! In the English version, Kakuju said, when you were in danger, do you remember what you cried out? And this translation says, have you ever called upon something in a time of crisis? So the question itself is even changed. Because, again, in the English version, Kakuju is asked, do you remember what you cried out? But the Japanese version is, have you ever called on something when you were in a moment of crisis. In the English version, Kururugi just kind of goes, But in the Japanese version, the translation says, there's two possibilities. According to Google Translate, Kururugi says, oh, that's it. Or according to Deep L, yeah, that's it. So, in the English version, Kururugi is expressing confusion over being asked if they remember what it was they called out. But in the Japanese version, when asked if they ever did, Kururugi was like, yeah, I have.
お前なんで知ってんだよ。
Ooh, we're getting some interesting context changes. Oh, we're getting some good, interesting changes here. Oh, I am all for it. In the English version, InuYasha follows up with, how would you know? The translated version from Google Translate is, hey, how do you know? And from Deep L is, how the hell did you know? Given InuYasha's character, I would probably go with the how the hell did you know? Because he'd probably find it suspicious. And of course, we know he's got a foul mouth.
なぜじゃろうな。
But Kakuju plays into it. And in the English version, lets out a laugh and says, I wonder. The Japanese version, from Deep L, translates her dialogue as, I wonder why. Whereas Google Translate says the same thing. So, Kakuju's pretty much just going, oh, I'm not playing your game, you're playing my game.
怪しいババアだな。
And in the English version, InuYasha remarks, strange granny. If you're playing as Kagome, he says, strange gramps. But here, ooh, I think we're getting some interesting dialogue. Go with the English, it's so good. Let's see. Okay. So, in the English version, InuYasha remarks, strange granny. According to the Deep L translation, he says, you're an old hag who doubles down. Google Translate, he says, what a suspicious old hag. Which, from InuYasha, suspicious old hag fits him to a fucking T. I would probably go with that for him.
ねえ、何のこと？
And then Kagome, of course being confused, in the English version asks, what is this about? The translation from Deep L is, hey, what's this about? From Google Translate is, hey, what's that about? So, pretty much the same thing here. Like, pretty much the same thing no matter what.
ああ、こいつこれでも妙な技を使うんだよ。
Now, let's see here. Because this is an interesting line in the English version. In the English version, InuYasha responds with, "It doesn't seem likely, but this human has a mysterious power." For the English version, it's not clear if he's referring to Kakuju or Kururugi. Because we know Kakuju is talking about Kururugi. But is InuYasha referring to Kakuju or Kururugi in this instance? Let's see. So, according to Google Translate, InuYasha says, even this guy has some strange tricks. I don't know if I'd take that one. I would probably stick with this human has a mysterious power, but it's still unclear if InuYasha is referring to Kakuju or Kururugi in this instance. Because it could honestly go either way. Kakuju somehow knows that Kururugi did something, but is also now aware that Kururugi apparently has a power. And then Shippo in English says, "Oh, I see." Whereas the translation here, according to Deep L, is, that's what it is. And Google Translate is, "Oh, is that so?"
そんな大したことないんだけど。
In English, Kururugi follows up with, "It's nothing really." Which does seem odd if InuYasha wasn't referring to Kururugi having the mysterious power. But also saying it's nothing really is a little strange because Kururugi barely remembers what it was he did. So, let's see what the translation has to say. According to the translation, Kururugi, according to the Deep L translator, said it's not a big deal. But according to Google Translate says, well, it's nothing big. Which, yeah, context-wise, pretty much the same.
それでおばあちゃん、あの力は一体何なの?
Oh, that's an interesting translation from the Deep L translator. In English, Kururugi follows up with, "Well, Grandma, exactly what is this power?" According to Google Translate, they say, "So, Grandma, what exactly is that power?" So, pretty much the same thing said in English. But according to Deep L, Kururugi asks, "Well, Grandma, what the hell is that power?"
それはの式神といって万物に宿った神の力を操る特殊な力なのじゃ。
Oh, hold up! Oh! Oh! Oh, that's a revelation! Wasn't in the English version. So, Kakuju does say Shikigami, but also mentions Kami. Kakuju mentions Kami in the same breath as Shikigami. This is important, because in the English version, Kakuju responded with, "It's what we call Shikigami, which is a special power that can be wielded. It's a spiritual power that exists in all creatures in the universe." According to the Japanese translation, from the Deep L translator, it's called Shikigami, a special power that controls the divine power that resides in all things. And Google Translate says the same thing. Shikigami is a special power that controls divine power. So Kururugi basically has the power of God and anime on his side. This is divinity.
聞いてるとなんだかすごそうだけど。
Now, of course, now hold on though, Maria, because this is where it gets interesting, because from the English version, it's a spiritual power that exists in all creatures in the universe. There's another connotation to that, because from that, Kakuju is essentially equating Shikigami to things like Ki or Chi, however you want to call it, but also mentions that exists in all creatures in the universe. Because I mentioned this in the English when I streamed the English version of the game. Shikigami is related to a power called Onmyodo, which is a power type that sits somewhere between magic and spiritual. It is neither magic or spiritual. It's somewhere in the middle, and it is the only power type that does that, because no one's been able to actually categorize Onmyodo. And Onmyodo means the way of yin and yang, and it is a power type that can only be utilized by Onmyoji, the masters of yin and yang. And the concept of yin and yang comes from Taoism over in China. And so it's kind of like the spirit power from Yu Yu Hakusho? Pretty much. It could also very likely be similar to Ki from Dragon Ball. Or Dragon Ball Z. Because when Kururugi uses it, it takes the form of a colored light. In the same way Ki does when used for attacks. So, the thing with Yin and Yang and Taoism is that Taoism belief is that the universe started from the two fundamental forces of Yin and Yang, and from there branched out. Yin and Yang are the origin, and since Onmyoji are the masters of Yin and Yang, and use Onmyodo, the way of Yin and Yang, they're basically utilizing the power of creation of the universe. That's essentially what Onmyodo is, and Shikigami is... The Shikigami are spiritual servants of Onmyoji that are either bound into service or that form a sort of pact with the Onmyoji. It gets a little crazy, but in short, Kururugi has cosmic power that can forcefully bind gods into service, if he so desired. So, off of Kakuju's explanation of what Shikigami is, in the English version, if I can get to it. Come on. Responds with, that sounds pretty amazing. Yeah, like basically Genie. Infinite cosmic power. That's basically what Onmyoji have with Onmyodo and Shikigami. Oh, whoops, I already screenshot that. So, Kagome's response in Japanese is, listening to it, it sounds pretty amazing. So this actually makes something interesting. Because originally, with the English version of the game, I kept going under the phenomenal cosmic power itty bitty living space. I was running off of the idea that the story of Cursed Mask, the beginning of Cursed Mask's story takes place shortly after, like, episode 64 of the anime's content, which is with Tsubaki the Dark Priestess. Because Tsubaki was the character in the series that introduced Shikigami. Tsubaki made use of Shikigami. So, I ran with the idea that that the characters had already been introduced to Shikigami, and this is just another form. But off of this response from Kagome, I'd say that the stuff with Tsubaki never happened yet in this timeline. Like, maybe there was some stuff that happened, like some early season 3 content that happened before this story, but at the very earliest, the Curse Mask story takes place pretty much immediately after season 2's content, which is after InuYasha gets the Backlash Wave. Why? Because InuYasha gets the Backlash Wave as a technique in this game. So, story-wise, he already has it. So, with Kagome saying, listening to it, it sounds pretty amazing, at being told what Shikigami is, it seems very clear that in this timeline, they've never encountered Shikigami before. They've never encountered Tsubaki before. And this is interesting to me. I find this very interesting for this story.
お前さんの力はまだ目覚めたばかりと見えるな。
Now then, Kakuju follows up with, if I can get to it. Well, you have only just awakened to your powers in the English version. The translation says, your power is, you look like you've only just woken up. More or less the same thing, but yeah. So this story took place prior to it or something. Prior to the Dark I'm pretty sure I mentioned this when I did the English version back in March, but essentially, Curse Mask's story completely replaces the content from Season 3 all the way through Season 5 of the anime. Because when the game came out, Season 6 was barely starting. So they couldn't really do anything with that content. Because there are... this is why making a game for an anime that's currently ongoing is a problem at times. I mean, most of the time, those games are either complete retellings of the story up until that point, or it's a non-canon, quote-unquote, side game that doesn't matter. But the reason I say that this game's story replaces the content from seasons 3 through 5 is because there are points in the game's story. At the time this game came out, InuYasha was ongoing. More or less, yeah, the manga was definitely still ongoing. The anime was close to ending because they knew Rumiko Takahashi was going to take a while to finish, so they didn't want to do a shit ton of filler once they finished up season 6, so they were just like, okay, season 6 is where we're done, and then we'll continue on once she's finished. And the game came out during that final original season. But there are some moments in the game's story that are essentially similar plot points or plot beats from the content of seasons 3, 4, and 5. One of them being, since InuYasha doesn't get the Red Tetsaiga, instead, Kururugi gets an ability that destroys barriers. So that essentially replaces the two-parter of InuYasha getting the Red Tetsaiga that was meant to help him destroy barriers. Then there's another plot beat of Rin being kidnapped by Kagura. And that does happen in this game. The only difference is because of circumstances, Kururugi is assisting Kagura in kidnapping Rin. That event still happens. And then there's the whole Band of Seven arc that is essentially thrown out the window, but they essentially keep the Mount Hakure stuff with Naraku. He has to be relevant. Well, again, yes, because of course Kururugi has to be the one to get the ability if InuYasha doesn't have it, because otherwise they would just be repeating the events from the anime for InuYasha to get the Red Ted Saga, and I can see why they wouldn't do that, because it's just repeating the exact same events. So instead of giving InuYasha a different way to destroy barriers, or a different character from the original cast a way to destroy barriers, give it to the new protagonist of the game's story, because then yes, it makes them relevant. But funny thing, you only get like 4 uses out of the damn thing before it becomes irrelevant. And lo and behold, the fights where it's irrelevant are against Naraku. Since they have a new protag, they kind of have to. Yeah, like the new protagonist needs abilities in order to be relevant with the cast and the story. Let's see. So they also essentially, like I mentioned, throw out the Band of Seven stuff, because they never appear, they're never mentioned. There's no Hakudoshi, no infant. But they essentially kept of the PS1 InuYasha RPG, which follows the story until a point, but it has an original ending. Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much, because there are games that try to adapt the story up to where it currently is, but of course, since the story's not done, they kind of do their own thing to end it. So this game essentially has its own version of Mount Hakure, because it's where you see Naraku first get his armored form, which in the original story he doesn't get until after the Band of Seven arc. But of course, the difference here is that in this game story, Kana and Kagura are killed off far earlier than they are in the original story. While it's never confirmed, because it's never brought up after you fight Kana, she is gone. So it's very much assumed that she is dead. And then Kagura is killed off by Naraku before she would have been killed by him in the original story. So, like, but aside from those are like the only 3 plot beats that have a comparable plot point from the original story, the anime and manga, and then the rest is just like, okay, how do we make things go up to these points? Because up until you reach Asagiri Island, which is the Mount Hakure equivalent for this game, Naraku is in his robes, not the baboon pelt, because he's never seen wearing that in this game. But it's his noble's attire. So very much, it's during the moment before the Band of Seven arc that we're doing right now. And then, again, Asagiri Island is Mount Hakure, and he gets his armored form. But instead of Naraku running away, he gets, quote-unquote, defeated. And then things go from there. So, it definitely feels like the game was wanted to do its own thing, but wanted to try and do its own spin on moments from the original story that would try to fit in with the game story. Let's see. Yeah, I did this one. Sorry, I got a little sidetracked. Let's see. What did you say, Kakuju? So, English version, Kaiju says, well, you have only just awakened your powers. You don't even know how to use them yet. Use them to their fullest potential yet. Google Translate was, your power is... You look like you've only just woken up. It seems you don't even know how to use it properly. So, slight context change here, because English version, Kaguya's like, you don't even know how to use your power to its fullest potential, whereas the Japanese version is, you don't even know how to use it properly.
本当ダメなんだ。みんなに助けられてばかりで。
And then from Kururugi, in the English version, says, I'm pretty helpless. Everybody's been protecting me. Again, this is a core personality trait of Kururugi. They constantly feel like they can't keep up. They're constantly holding people back and forcing them to look after them. Here, Kururugi says, yeah, I'm really no good. I'm always being helped by everyone. So, fairly much the same contextually, but again, Kururugi is putting themselves down. Like, Kururugi feels like they're not good enough.
仕方ないわよ。あっちの世界ではそんなものないんだし。
And then Kagome, in an attempt to cheer Kururugi up, in the English version says, you can't help it. There's nothing like this in our world. Whereas the translation says, it can't be helped. There's no such thing in that world. I don't know if I'd go with the Google Translate version. Deep L's version is, you don't have a choice. In the other world, we don't have anything like that. I actually would go with the English version here. Because the Japanese version, Kagome is saying, you don't have a choice. But the English version, she says, you can't help it. So the English version definitely makes her come off as more compassionate, I think.
あっちの世界じゃと?
And then Kakuju is confused. Well, your world, in the English version, very straightforward. Translation is, in that world,
僕、こことは違う世界から突然こちらの世界に連れてこられたんだよ。
I might have to push this one a little bit farther just to get through this stuff with Kakuju. Because I would very much like to get this done for the stream. In the English version, Kururugi responds with, yes, I'm from a different world, and I was brought here unexpectedly. The translation says, yeah, I was suddenly brought to this world from a different world. Basically the same thing. I do think I'd go with the Google Translate result. Just personally.
ほほう、別の世界からの。それは珍しい。
And here Kakuju seems a little intrigued. In the English version, Kakuju says, "Oh, you're from a different world. That is unusual." The translation says, "Oh, from another world. That's unusual." Pretty much the same thing.
このへんてこな格好を見て気づかんのか。
And then in with Shippo. Shippo says, in the English version, you couldn't tell from the strange clothing? The translation, however, that comes out weird, but ignoring the one word that it put in there that's weird, the translation looks to be, look at their strange clothes. Didn't you notice? I do think I'd go with the English version for that.
すまんな。わしは目が不自由なもので。
And then Kakuju responds with, in the English version, "I'm sorry, my eyes don't work so well anymore." With this translation saying, "Sorry, I'm blind." Just flat out, "Sorry, I'm blind." Okay. Wasn't expecting the straightforward, "I'm blind."
格好どころか、お前さん方の顔もよく見えぬのじゃ。
That one just kind of threw me off. But, in the English version, Kakuju continues with, "I can't even tell what you're wearing or what you look like." The translation's continuation is, "I can't even see your faces very well, let alone your clothes." And Shippo, upon realizing he made an oopsie, in the English version says, "I didn't realize that. I'm sorry for what I said." The Japanese translation says, "Is that so? I didn't realize that, and I'm sorry."
気にするでない。
In the English version, Kakuju just gives an amused little laugh and says, "Don't worry about it." Translation. From Google Translate is a laugh, and then, "I don't care." But the Deep L translation is a laugh and, "Don't worry about it." So, same as the English version.
で、何か知ってんのか?
I actually think I'm cutting it a little close, so I don't think I'd be able to finish the stuff with Kakuju. So then InuYasha follows up with, "So, do you know anything?" The Deep L translation, he says, "So, what do you know?" And the Google Translate version is, "So, do you know anything?" So, same as the English version.
いや、残念じゃが、わしには何もわからん。
And Kakuju's response in English is, "Sorry, but I don't know anything that could help you." And the translation is, well, unfortunately, I don't know anything.
そう。
With Kururugi being disappointed in the English version, saying, I see. Oh. While the translation... pretty much the same thing.
すまんの。
And then Kakuju apologizing. The translation is... should be a flat, I'm sorry. Yep. And the English version is sorry about that.
いいよ。じゃ。
And then Kururugi's response in the English version is just a... oh, no, never mind. In the English version, Kururugi responds with, that's okay. Well... And they're about to leave. The translation says, yeah, that's fine. Then, and about to leave.
お待ちなさい。
When Kakuju stops them. But I think from there, we're gonna call it. Once again, not a whole lot of progress, but we did at least get to where I was hoping to with Kakuju and the stuff with Shikigami. Finding out some really interesting stuff from the Japanese version that's not in the English version. And with that, well, we'll see. Well, yeah, no, next stream, we'll continue from here and see what we can do. Until then, this has been the Azure Guardian. See ya!